Hey there, and welcome back to another reaction. So today, I'm finally doing it. I'm finally returning to Meshuggah. I'm saying finally, I'm pretty sure the last video came out like a week and a half ago. I don't quite remember at this point. I've been wanting to return to Meshuggah pretty much since that video. I've had a lot of fantastic reception to that video, and I've had a lot of great suggestions. So I've got 3 or 4 songs on my list, other songs to react to, as I've basically not heard anything from them except for that one that we've reacted to already. It gives me a lot of options, so they might not all come out soon. I like to try and stagger it. I don't like to do the same artists, 2 or 3 in a row. I would rather have them kind of spaced out. This is not the last Meshuggah reaction you will see on this channel, and definitely expect more in future. Today we're going to be looking at Dancers to a Discordant System, which is a 9.5-minute song. So I don't want to give too much preamble. If a 4-minute song can turn into a 25-minute video, then who knows where this is going to go. I've heard that this is recommended as one of the best Meshuggah songs out there. There's a lot of elements in it, a lot to kind of look at and go over. There's a lot to think about with it. And so I'm just going to dive straight in. The only thing I will mention is that I don't have lyrics up. I will do my best to kind of incorporate the lyrics into the things I'm thinking about, but chances are it'll be mostly the musicality I'm looking at, as I won't pick up all the lyrics the first listen. Anyway, without any further ado, let's just get going. Very sparse intro. Oh, okay. Off to an incredible start with the just not consistent rhythm at all. Polyrhythm, I think you would call it. My god. It's so unsettling, but in like a really good way, with it being offbeat. I'm always amazed at how drummers can actually drum a consistent beat through this. I'm going to quickly pause there. What I find amazing about that intro, and I find this genuinely amazing about it, is that 1, the drummer can keep a consistent beat despite the whole song being off tempo because of the way the guitars are coming. 2, the fact that while the drummer is keeping a consistent beat, the guitarist can go off tempo like that without feeling like you've made a horrendous mistake. Like, obviously this is how the song was intended to be written, and that's fine. And I think this was released in like 2008 or something. Meshuggah had been going for a long time at that point still. I imagine you just becomes second nature to you, but for me it still feels weird. Spirit Box are obviously one of my favourite bands, and they do the offbeat stuff relatively regularly. They are clearly very inspired by Meshuggah. Another band that I used to listen to when I was younger a lot, that I've heard referenced when it comes to this style of music, is Dillinger Escape Plan, and I definitely do remember that about them, where a lot of their stuff felt very off-kilter for the same specific reason that, what I believe to be called polyrhythms. Essentially there's just like 3 or 4 different rhythms that actually happen like over the course of not even a song, but a section of a song. And this is just the intro, after all. This is just the intro, and we've already had multiple different rhythms going on. Nothing's quite syncing up, and we've got the vocals about to come in, and I'm going to see how the vocals actually tie into all of that. It'll be very interesting. I like that they gave the space initially for the guitars to basically get into its own rhythm. I feel like if too many elements had started right away, it would have been hard to adjust to that in the intro. But because it started with just the light guitar and then it went into the heavy guitar, a little bit of drums, and that's pretty much it, you started to get into the rhythm of the intro as a whole. So like, rather than, you know, when you would consider something like a time signature, rather than the rhythm taking place consistently over a bar and then that bar is essentially, you know, repeated over and over, that time signature for that bar is repeated over and over throughout the song to keep it consistent. It's essentially each bar feels like it's a different length and it has a different time signature. So say you had like a, I don't know, a 4/4, a 6/8, a 3/4, and then back to a 4/4, for example. That's not what this is, I know that for sure, but just say that for an example. When you have that 3-bar section of, you know, 4/4, 6/8, 3/4, and then it goes back to 4/4, 6/8, 3/4, you develop like an extended rhythm essentially, where it's a bit offbeat, but then if you take it at the space, if you let it run for long enough, it becomes a regular pattern of non-patterns. That's what I find really cool about Meshuggah and this kind of genre, which I know people don't like it being called gent sometimes, but I am going to call it gent. This, and to be honest, it's a bit of prog metal as well, really. It's probably prog metal more. That's one thing I really love about this genre, is the way that that's allowed to develop, and it pulls you into a new rhythm essentially that you're not used to. Really makes it feel fresh every single time. Doesn't matter how many songs you might go through that are like this, they always feel different, and that's what I love. Let's keep going. I think I'll go back 5 seconds because I think the vocals were right about to come in. Very interesting whisper vocals. I'm just waiting for it to come in and melt my face off. Oh. That's such a powerful scream. Alright, I feel like we're getting about a minute each, and then I'm doing a bunch of talking, so I don't want to keep you here forever, so I will try and speed it up a bit. But I mean, that vocal was brilliant. Those vocals were brilliant. We had obviously the kind of whisper, I don't know if you'd call it whisper tones. It wasn't really whispering, but it was, you know, quieter than normal. It kind of blended into the instrumentals almost, I would say. I did have to turn up my volume a little bit to make sure I could hear the vocals properly. They sounded good. They kind of gave you this feeling that, oh, we're building up to something. Obviously, that's what we had with Broken Cog, which was the other reaction I did to a Meshuggah song. We're building up, and it was quite quiet for a lot of the song in terms of his vocals, and then we had the one big breakdown, and that was great. But what I was expecting coming into this was essentially, you know, the full song is going to have a lot of louder, harsher screaming in it. It seems like we're going to get that because we're only 2 minutes in and we've already had a build up to a big explosion. So I feel like this is just going to go and go and go, and there's going to be a lot that we're going to be able to hear with the vocals. Even that little section, I'm like, yeah, I understand why he's such an inspiration to a lot of harsh vocalists. As I mentioned, I think Meshuggah were created and founded in 1987. So what that means is that they've been doing this for a long time. I mean, if they were founded in 1987, this song came out 21 years into their career. And if that's the case, the vocalist was likely doing a lot of this stuff way before most other people were even doing it, because they will have been one of the big pioneers for this genre, coming from, the 80s into the 90s. Even with 30 years of a career and 30 years of new bands being inspired and starting from Meshuggah, his vocals still sound impressive, even comparing to the people inspired by him. And I think that's what was so amazing, is that, there's a lot of bands you can hear that were like big inspirations, but they don't sound anywhere near as good as a lot of the modern stuff, because what the modern stuff has done is taken the older stuff and built on top of it and built it up and made it better. Meshuggah, being an active band, have continued to still develop and keep up, and I'm excited to see where else his vocals are taken, because I think this is genuinely fantastic and really impressive. Even though this was only 2008, when I compare it to Broken Cog, his vocals just sound fantastic across the span of the career that I've seen, and I can only imagine they were also good before that. So it's very, very exciting stuff. Alright, we're nearly 15 minutes into my recording, and we're 2/9 of the way through the song, so let's get moving. Yeah, I love that even though it's quiet and whispering, he's still got the snarl in that vocal. And his vocal seems to be following relatively the guitar pattern, which is fitting in really nicely. Like, it's such a snarl. Oh, he's just holding it. He's just holding it. You really do feel like you're being carried through a journey with these guitars. And again, when you're listening to the guitars there, you can clearly hear where Doom was influenced. Like, it's so apparent where Doom was influenced by Meshuggah. And I know I said that a lot in the Broken Cog, but it's good to hear that sound was still there with Meshuggah, and it seems to be quite iconic to them. So the fact that that's been translated so nicely into the Doom soundtrack is very impressive. But what I was mentioning in the quieter part of the vocal was I found it quite impressive, the way that even though he was doing quite a low, quiet sound, like he was talking like this essentially, but in a sort of harsher vocal singing voice. That's the kind of volume that he was going for. You could still hear snarl. It wasn't just a static sound of essentially, harsh vocal rap. It was still adding ornamentation coming off the end of some words. You had like a howl, like that sort of howl that was coming through to it. And it was really cool to sort of hear that added on and sort of making its way. It's so hard to explain what that actually added. It really made the song feel so much more aggressive just by adding those little ornamentations, even though it's quite down tempo at that point. The guitars are relatively down tempo, the drums kind of go and it's steady, and the vocals are obviously quite quiet, but you still feel the animosity and the almost anger coming through thanks to those different styles. And then obviously you burst into not really a chorus, but you burst into the louder section, because it's prog metal. You don't really have a chorus. It's just, if you think of a normal pop structure as like A B C B, that sort of thing, where A is a verse, B is a chorus, C is a bridge. This kind of music is A B C D E F G, and it just goes. There's no specific repetition to an extent. Sometimes you'll get callbacks, sometimes you'll get different things here and there. There's no specific repetition. And actually, speaking of callbacks, I did see in my reading before this song, apparently I think this is the last or one of the last songs that was released on this album, and there's a lot of sections and parts in it that sound like other songs on the album. So since I've not heard those other songs on the album, I won't really understand them necessarily or get those references, but I just want to put it out there that that is a thing that I know exists in this song. Not only is it supposedly a great standalone song, which I'm getting that so far, that it's a great standalone song, but also it's a great bookend to a full album. And sometimes, there's a lot of different contexts for a song that make a difference. One of the things that is cool about when I think about the Pain Remains trilogy from Lorna Shore, it can stand alone as its own trilogy, but if you put it in the context of the full album, it takes on a completely different meaning. Like, that Pain Remains trilogy on its own sounds like, someone losing their wife and having a mental breakdown, essentially. But if you take it in consideration of the full album, it sounds more like someone who has gone through the lucid dreaming, and that was intentional. That was built in by Adam and Will in that album. Not that we're not here to talk about Lorna Shore. The point is to say that the context of a song can make a massive difference, and where you hear the song, what you know about the song going in. This is something I've found with Ghost, where I don't have as much information going in about the lore, and so there's a lot of wee bits that I miss as a result that you would get if you'd been a long time Ghost fan, if you've listened from the start, that sort of thing. There might be a lot of contextual stuff that makes this song even better than it already is, but so far, I'm absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it. Let's keep going. I can only imagine the pits at a Meshuggah gig, man. This really is pit music. Oh, some dissonant chords in there. Now that's something I do recall from Dillinger Escape Plan. They love their dissonance. Yeah, that kind of section demonstrates what I was talking about, where it fits into its own rhythm. It creates its own rhythm, and I'm been very animated. I'm not normally this animated, but I'm so kind of pulled into this. I'm just noticing all these different things. I'm loving it. Yeah, the way it's been building its own rhythm out of multiple different time signatures and things like that throughout the guitar pieces. It's just really giving it that extra oomph, I really think, is making this song stand out. Let's keep going. It's so good. See, and again, one of the things I really noticed in the Broken Cog video was how certain sections would linger on a bit longer than you would expect them to, and not only does that tie into the sort of polyrhythmic style of the song as a whole, rather than a bar being just a single bar and you've got like 4/4 bar, 4/4 bar, 4/4 bar, a bar of like a rhythm in this song could be a 30 seconds chunk. And so if you're going to get some regularity out of that, you're going to have to play that 30-second chunk 3 or 4 times in a row, which becomes 2 minutes very quickly. What that means is that parts of the song feel like they're essentially continuing on a bit longer than you would expect them to be. And so when they're playing, you would expect like, oh, a change is going to come up now. We've had 4 beat repetitions of this section, a change up will come up now, but it never does, and that again just adds to making you feel on edge. But again, that's what you're looking for when you go to this kind of song, is you want to get that feeling of discomfort. The song is literally called Dancers to a Discordant System. You would expect this song of all songs to be irregular, make you feel uncomfortable. And again, I've not been following the lyrics basically at all. I don't know what the song's actually talking about. It's No, it's very impressive the way that something can outstay its welcome, in the sense that it continues on after you would expect it to end without outstaying its welcome, in the sense of, you know, feeling like, alright, can you just move on? You never get that feeling of, can you just move on to the next bit? You've got the feeling of anticipation of, when is it going to change, because you don't know. And that is brilliant. That is one of the most brilliant things about this genre, and I love how it's been done in this song, because it's every section. It's not just like this section that I paused on. Every section has that feeling of what's going to come next, what could it be, you don't know, and it's exciting all the way throughout the song. Okay, I heard those words. That was the title of the song. Oh, we've got a bit more melody in this bit. There's a wee bit of perhaps piano in the background. Yeah, a wee bit of piano or something. Oh, there's the change. There you go. So there's another changeover that, again, you don't know when it's going to come, so it's always got you on edge. And you're just sucked into the song. See, there's a perfect example where it's like the guitar goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's something like that. It captures your attention so much. Every part of this song so far is just capturing your attention. The vocals are, you know, fantastic. The harsh vocals, the harsh vocalization is brilliant, but also the sustain that he's got in a lot of these sections, you know, it's incredible breath control to keep that sustain with a harsh vocal whilst also keeping the volume. At least as somebody who tries to do harsh vocals and fails miserably sometimes, tries to do harsh vocals sometimes, fails miserably all the time. It really is difficult to keep that sustain, which is really impressive, but it keeps your attention. And then the guitars, because you just can't grasp it and hold on to it, you know, it keeps slipping through your hands whenever you think, oh, I've got a hold of this song now. It changes it up, it does something different, it changes your rhythm again. Not only is it changing the rhythm between bars, but it's then those kind of extra larger sections are also changing, so you can't quite grasp the song and pin it down, and that's always keeping you sucked in. Like, I can't believe that this has been going for 6 minutes, honestly. It feels like it's been 2 or 3. You're just right there, and you're sucked into the song. It's so impressive. Alright, let's keep going. We've got 3 minutes left to go. I have no idea how this song is going to end. If it's just going to kind of go and then cut out, or if we're going to have a big breakdown at some point. I don't know. Let's see. But this is a much more open tone in the guitars than you've seen for a lot of the song. A lot of the song has been a bit more muted. It's a bit more pingy. Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, come on. I don't want to pause it. I want to just... I don't know when it's going to end. And I want to talk about it. Listen to that. Right, I think it's safe to pause there. I wasn't expecting a solo to come in because the guitars were the chuggy guitars that have been going for the whole song were still going. So I was assuming that there wasn't going to be a solo essentially coming in at that point. And then it just came in above those guitars, with the guitars still going at the same volume, just came in like a third guitar maybe. It just came in like a second or third guitar. I don't know. I feel like it's been 2 guitars so far, so that would probably be the third guitar coming in over the top with just some beautiful melodies, still being syncopated. So you've got the drum going at a relatively consistent beat. You've got the guitars going on a different, slightly less consistent beat, but a different one on. And then the solo's just going. The solo has no regard for time signatures, no regard for what you think of as the rhythm. It plays where it wants to play, and it comes out sounding absolutely gorgeous. Like genuinely gorgeous. Like at first, the first couple of notes of the solo guitar that came in, I thought that was clean vocals. That's sort of how much it hit that note for me. I know we're 33 minutes into the recording. I'm going to go back and listen to that solo again. I think we'll go from here because I think this was where we left off previously. So I think this will capture the solo again. But there we go from here. Like this bit's beautiful. It just kind of pulls you in and then suddenly comes out with some sweeps, I think. Yeah, just some insane finger work. And again, it just doesn't care about what rhythm you think there might be. Like it's going like this. It's so good. But the guitars are keeping it steady throughout the whole thing. And it's relatively clean as well, you know. It's relatively clean as far as a solo goes in a song. The tone on it. And it just keeps escalating. It keeps building. Oh, now that's an interesting guitar tone going on there. That note, that vocal was held perfectly, by the way. That was some good sustain on that. I mean, it's so hard to... I don't want to just keep gushing, but it's so good. Like that, this is the kind of feeling you're getting from that guitar in the background, even though you've got some heavy chugs going throughout. And obviously this is coming to the end of the song. I mean... I'm gonna let it resolve and then I think we're gonna go back. And he just softly trails out. So... what we're going to do is we're going to go back, we're going to not listen to the full thing again, but listen to that outro again. I mean, as I said, throughout the whole song it's been doing escalation really well. From the standpoint that it is a progressive metal song, you would expect it to, you know, progress. And it does. It does change up throughout the whole song. Then, you know, no two sections are the same. Even though it changes up, you get a through line that's kept, because each section is different enough that it's clearly a different section, but similar enough to the previous one that it flows in. And when I think of longer songs like this, a lot of them will split into acts, and that's not a bad way of doing things. You know, one of the most famous examples you could think of that would be Bohemian Rhapsody, where that's essentially 3 different songs in the one song, even though it's only 5 minutes long. If each section was slightly longer, each section could be its own song that's just released as a standalone song, and you would be like, this is great, you know, this is a great song. But you put them together and it makes a fantastic song, but it is like, it feels distinct throughout, whereas this feels like it could only be done as the one song. So despite the fact that 1, it's 9.5 minutes long, 2, each section is different from the last, it feels like it could only have been done as a single song, coherently put together. And that's what's so impressive about it, because it keeps your attention, it keeps the flow throughout. You go from point to point to point. Even though each bit's a little different, you still feel the overall sound of the song. You feel a consistent line through it. And that gets you from the beginning to the end without ever drifting off or feeling like you've fallen out of the song. I mean, honestly, just super impressive. We're going to play from here, let the last minute just kind of play out, and then I'm going to give my final thoughts on this. Yeah, so what I like is that kind of higher guitar that came in is a bit quieter, and it gets louder throughout the outro. It's almost taking the place of the vocal line. And the thing about it as well is it's just a pleasant listen, you know? And you can hear the music start to turn down a bit, start to get quieter. But it's the heavier chugging guitars that are getting quieter faster, I suppose I would say. And that lighter guitar is staying a bit more present, at least for me, while it's getting quieter. And it's just like a gorgeous fade out. And the good thing about that last section as well there is that it was a consistent rhythm, whereas the entire song up to this point has been various different rhythms that make it hard to actually get into any one small part individually, even though you can kind of get into, when I say get into, I mean like into a rhythm where you can bop and kind of move about and stuff. The ending section feels like it's all come to a resolve. It's actually like a consistent rhythm over and over again, and you feel like you can bop out to it, essentially bop to the outro. What can you say? I mean, I guess that's my whole job here is to say something. I think we're just going to go to our final thoughts. Yeah, discuss what we thought of this song. So if it wasn't already apparent, I loved this song. You got a bit of a different extra range on the vocal performance than you got in Broken Cog, and I liked that because the only thing I missed from Broken Cog was, this is my first time listening to Meshuggah, I want to get a good grasp on what the vocals sound like, and you only got that one heavy section. This had heavy vocals persistent throughout. The sustain was fantastic. The harsh tone was brilliant. As I said, the snarl and even the quiet bits made it feel so intense and pulled you in. Clearly, just a masterful vocalist that knows what he's doing. The guitarists can't get enough praise for how talented they are. The fact that they're able to keep some sort of rhythm and tempo whilst consistently shifting up the order and the way in things which are played, all the things like that. It's just super impressive. I've always been impressed with prog metal. I think you would call this prog metal, like prog heavy metal, something like that. Thing I've always been impressed with the prog metal instrumentalists. These are long songs with a lot of different sections that don't necessarily always flow super intuitively as part of the song. And so, you know, if you're a guitarist for like a pop song, you only need to remember like 3 sections. You remember the verse, you remember the chorus, you remember the bridge, and you just play those on repeat. But for this, you need to remember a hell of a lot of different parts. And if you're playing this live, I can only imagine that there's got to be a bunch of improv in there. Chances are they remember most of it, but I feel like they have to probably improv some of the solos and some of the different notes when in a live performance. And that also adds to the live performance, because then you feel like you're listening to a unique version of the song that no one else has ever heard and isn't going to hear, because they're doing different things. Almost because it's a necessity, because if you're doing a set of 12 of these songs and you have to remember all of them, and they're all, 6 to 10 minutes long, they all have super complicated guitar that's, syncopated and polyrhythmic, and there's all these different adjectives for them. That sounds like a nightmare as a guitarist, but if you nail it, it's got to be the most satisfying thing in the world to get right, I wouldn't know, unfortunately, but I'm sure it feels amazing. The drummer, again, just kind of the backbone of the song, keeping the consistent beat. I assume there was a bassist in that, but I feel like bass, for me anyway, can often get monopolized by guitars. I feel like this is probably one of those songs where if the bass wasn't there, I would notice, but because the bass is there, I don't notice it. Apologies to the bass player. If there is no bass player, you've tricked me, congratulations. But if there is bass in this song, I imagine it fits into the guitar well, and it probably, to be honest, it gets the same praises as the guitarist, because bass is very much unsung. Absolutely fantastic song. Like, genuinely a joy to listen to. I would happily listen to it again, and it's just made me so excited to hear more Meshuggah. What I do hope is that I haven't picked out one of the best songs to begin with, and each one I'm going to enjoy slightly less than this one, but I imagine not. There's such a wide discography for them. I imagine they've got some amount of bangers in there. But anyway, thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video. I really appreciate all of the support that I've been getting over the last few weeks on this channel. I've been doing well by my standards. I might not be hitting like crazy heights. I'm still only at 120 something subs, getting regularly like 100, 200 views per video. But the fact that 100 or 200 people have taken time out of their day to watch me chat nonsense about a song, it really does feel amazing. And thank you all for, coming out and watching this stuff. Leaving some great comments. I love reading through the comments. I love replying, talking about music, because that's ultimately what I'm here for. I want to discuss music, discover more music that not that I wouldn't normally listen to, but that I maybe have put off or just haven't got into for whatever reason. And it always gives me the chance to discover new stuff. But yes, please leave a comment what you thought of this song, any other suggestions you have, just to have a chat. Love having a chat about music. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It does help a great deal in terms of knowing, what people like to see, and, getting more people to come to the video and hopefully join this community that we have here. I think there's nothing else to say. I upload every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 5 PM UK time, so if you're looking for another reaction, you know where to find me. I do various stuff. I do pop, I do rock, I do metal. We're going to do a big mix of things. There'll always be something that you might be interested in. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.